Oh, I just came across a story from the African Diaspora channel about the ex-economic minister of France saying some things about Africa. Now, I went to confirm the story and I found an article by the Herald, and the title of this article is "Africa cannot manage the world, or can't manage the world." So let's have a look at this. The imbecility of Macron. Following a wave of anti-French feelings from across Francophone Africa, a former economic minister for France, Thierry took to Twitter and posted the following: "It's the imbecility of Emmanuel Macron that opened the eyes of Africans. One thing is for sure, if France loses its colonies, our children and grandchildren will go to Africa to search for their livelihoods. Immigration will change direction. Macron needs to go. If not, France will suffer. Europe needs to unite to fight this new African vision. If one of the heads of the putschits falls, the other will abandon the vision. Africa does not have history, so Africa cannot manage the world." This was in mid-December of 2023. Now the article continues: "Africa and forgetful Christmas, share fatalism and indifference." If you want to read the entire article, I will post it in the link below in the description. I have here the sleeping continent. Those with a longer memory will recall the epithet of imbecility in colonial lore, synonymous with Africans who rank the lowest on the so-called Darwin's evolutionary hierarchy. And we have here the reconquest of a continent. So they're telling you that they want to reconquer, because a reawakened Africa becomes unhelpful to France, forcing the children of France and grandchildren to march on Africa in search of their livelihoods. Lest the important is not clear enough to languid African minds, the angry and frustrated French ex-minister is not referring to French refugees or immigrants peaceably cast ashore our continent by sheer desperation and pleading for space as refugees or immigrants are wont to. He is referring to a second wave of violent colonial occupation of Africa, herself the last post for natural resources the Western world so eagerly needs for its survival and continuity. He means the invasion and reconquest of Africa, the same way barbarians from the north descended on Europe far back in that continent's dark age, where the barbarians defeated the Greeks and lost all the knowledge, and then that knowledge was taken up and saved by Arabic scholars. But moving on. Lest you think this is sentimental by the ex-French minister, is particulated to France only, the ex-minister rallies the whole of Europe. Europe needs to unite to fight this new African vision. Make no mistake, the ex-French minister is clear. Events in Francophone Africa, epitomized by Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Guinea, and now Senegal, are no mere chaos. If that were so, Macron would not have been an imbecile. Chaos, after all, has always been colonial imperialism's best ally in managing Africa and Africans. That essentially tells you that they create chaos in order to manage Africa and Africans. Think about that for a second. And all of this, they say, to keep Africans busy, distracted, well away from focusing on the natural resources which the West sorely needs. Chaos through wars and political turmoil should be invented. Invented. Fabricated from nothing. Invented. What upsets the ex-minister and requires more than a French garrison is that there is some coherent African vision behind the current anti-French sentiment movement in West Africa. And he doesn't like it, even if it means granting the same Africans he dismisses as rabble of history some capacity to finally open their own eyes by cobbling an upsetting vision unaided. That vision disturbs Western interests and must perforce unite Europe, which must fight it, and fight is not a metaphor here. Against France's divine right to rule. So these Europeans think that they have a divine right to rule over Africa, it seems. It is not a metaphor, because the ex-French minister envisions and agitates for some illustrative violent ouster of one of those African leaders behind this disturbing African vision. Except he strips those behind the African vision any dignified pretensions to be bona fide leaders of their societies, leaders busily meeting and fulfilling aspirations of their people, that is. No, they are putschits who have usurped and overthrown France's divine right to rule and exploit African people and her resources. That is interesting. One illustrative palace coup, or any form of violent overthrow of just one of these emerging anti-French African regimes, will send the rest of these errant African visionaries scurrying for neo-colonial cover and safety. Moving further. That way, the African clock gets reversed to the Berlin Conference days of the 19th century, with Africans living happily ever after under Western tutelage. Happily ever after, he says. And then they're pretty much going on to a point where they're trying to say that Africa is a continent with no history, taking on the Berlin Conference of 1884 beyond. Africa's image was that of terra nullius, and terra incognito, an uninhabited, unknown dark continent. No, you tell me, these Europeans come out of Europe, exploring the world for the first time. Everywhere they go, they see people. They go to the Caribbean, they see people. They go to South America, they see people. They go to North America, they see people. They go to Australia, they see people. Everywhere they go, they see people. They see black people. Africa has a very rich history. Make no mistake about it. Moving on further. Even as we know, or even as we Africans knew it, the ex-minister rehashes that Victorian trope of darkness, adding, Africa does not have history, so Africa cannot manage the world. This is a complete repudiation of Africa's claim or pretensions to global leadership, whether on grounds of previous claims to history, civilization, or on grounds of her resource endowments. A repudiation for all times. Africa cannot lead anything, anyone. Any prospects for some reawakened or enlightened Africa are dashed up front, suggesting even the self-comforting colonial notion of paternal tutelage is out of the question. She lives outside history. Only material thing about her highly mineralized geology. Interesting. So, pretty much they're trying to say Africa is only good for exploitation, it seems. The people be damned, yeah? No allies or alliances. You may have noticed that the ex-French minister makes no mention of any other continent or alliances. It is all about Europe versus the benighted Africa. There is no China, no Russia, or immediate countries like India, Brazil, Iran, Indonesia, or any other. Africa is stripped of any allies or alliances. Who partner with darkness anyway? Who partners with darkness? War in our lifetime. Gentle reader, I hope I have unpacked with this latter-day French Otto von Bismarck meant as we snooze lazily on the eve of last Christmas. as we still snooze now and tomorrow. Forever, who guards Africa now and in the future? Brenton makes it clear. Europe projects intergenerational dominance of Africa. If it's not her children, it will be her grandchildren fighting Africa's rude vision that defines any other destiny for herself outside her servitude and submission. This column has raised alarm over so-called strategic mineral resources movement on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. America has drawn up a list of minerals she needs for her defense industry, for economic transition to the green age, the so-called green age, which is rubbish, because most of what they classify as green in order to produce it takes a devastating toll on the environment. So is it really green? I don't really think so. And for her continued dominance in world affairs, that's what's most important here, really. Europe has gone even further to legislate for access to those minerals it does not have, which only Africa had and easily releases, whether through naivety or weakness. Whichever way, it is clear that what Brenton proposed in December last year, the West is already disposing through guile and courtship for now, through war tomorrow, and tomorrow is in our lifetime, you and I. End of article. I'll put it in the link below. You can have a look at it yourself. This is from the Herald, and the date was May 18th, 2024. The African Diaspora News Channel did a little summary on it. I went a little more in depth